Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. So I really wanted to do this video, and I know my previous video regarding technical seminar from Mark Cerny seems to be getting a lot of views. People seems to be interested in my opinion regarding Mark Cerny and the PS5 Pro. So now I want to look at this interview that was conducted by Digital Foundry called Inside PlayStation 5 Pro. Um, and this is basically Mark Cerny and Mike Fitzgerald interview. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's listen to. Well, I'm not gonna watch the entire thing. I'm picking up certain segments from the video so that way I can give you my opinions on it. So this is the one that I'm interested in regarding the PlayStation scaling super resolution PSSR. I call it PISSR, but it's PSSR. Basically, it's similar to NVIDIA's deep learning super sampling. Okay, this is just a PlayStation Sony's version. So let's see what Mark Cerny has to say regarding the PSSR. The question was, does he think that PSSR will improve over time?
Quality comeback.
Yeah, so PSSR, it's basically your kind of first implementation here of a machine learning based upscaling model. And I think we're seeing, that for sure people are doing pretty wide ranges in terms of those upscaling factors. But in the future, are you potentially looking to even increase those upscaling factors or maybe be delivering better quality out of PSSR, out of a new version of PSSR perhaps? Like we know that so far there have been some improvements in that PSSR iteration over the time pre-launch. So will that continue in the future, do you think?
I mean, we're definitely continuing with development of these ML-based libraries for game graphics. It's just that there's so many targets to go up against. Like, I was in that talk today, I was also going over frame generation, frame extrapolation, ray tracing, denoising, and the like. So what order and what focus, those are really good questions. Additionally complicating this, of course, is that we announced Project Amethyst with AMD today. Right. So it's not just us developing the networks. We have a partner that we're doing it with. And of course, what the partner feels about that technology direction and where the focus should be is also very important.
Okay, so in that vein, on PC at the moment, we have a lot of technologies, like you mentioned. We have frame generation. We have lots of AI upscaling models. We have people even talking like Intel about possibly frame extrapolation models. We also have models like DLSS ray reconstruction, which are doing pretty profound things to the makeup of a game image in real time in a pretty lightweight manner. So these are areas that you're possibly exploring. Is that what you're saying for future PSSR upgrades? Is that what you're thinking about?
Oh, definitely. Well, it wouldn't be PSSR. It would be, well, so PSSR is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution.
So it'll be different branding. Yeah, Spectral's branding.
Spectral is our branding for the ML libraries for graphics, just like Tempest is our branding for our 3D audio.
Right.
And so it's going to be Spectral something for all of that. And yeah, we're definitely looking at what it would be that Spectral something, if not Super Resolution. But Super.
So I see what he's basically saying. He obviously wants this spectral PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. He wants this to certainly to evolve for his GPUs currently on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I mean. But I think the question that Oliver was really asking was, is this it for PlayStation 5 Pro? Are we going to be stuck with this for a year and a half, possibly 2 years, and then later on, PlayStation 6? I have a feeling that Oliver was asking a question, is this it? For PlayStation 5 Pro, are we stuck with this current ability that we have with a PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or is this going to evolve on PS5 Pro? Did you listen how, like, see, Mark Cerny already gave me the answer. The answer that Mark Cerny gave me was, this is just for PlayStation 5 Pro. Okay, Oliver, we're not like thinking about advancing the PS5 Pro with anything more than what we already have. We want to let developers play with this for a couple of years till PlayStation 6 comes out. And then when the PlayStation 6 comes out, then we're going to move to the next level. Okay. And I think that was the answer that Mark Cerny gave to Oliver. And this is, again, the reason you're watching this video is because you want to hear my perspective. What do I think? I could be wrong. Maybe they will evolve, PlayStation Spectral super scaling resolution. Okay, let's just call it a pisser. I like the word pisser. But I don't think that they will. Like the way he just gave this answer, the way Mark Cerny gave the answer was pretty much, hold your horses, Oliver. We're still on PlayStation 5 Pro, dude. It's like, chill, We're only like 1 month into PS5 Pro. Like, just relax, And it makes sense. They want to give developers a chance throughout 2025 into 2026 for developers to take the advantage of this technology, of this extra, horsepower that the PS5 Pro has, right? So with these 32 working groups that they have on their CPU and GPU, and much faster memory, they want, and then of course, using this AI, pisser technology, spectral technology, scaling technology. It's upscaling, and I'm all about upscaling, of course. Who would have known, who would have thought that I predicted this, that my name, Mr. 4K Upscaler, would echo in eternity? I know, Jose, you're laughing out there. I know you're laughing. I can see it. But it's true. Who would have known in 2016 when I came up with this name, Mr. 4K Upscaler, that the upscaling would echo in eternity? Everyone was talking native 4K. And I remember when I started this channel, I was telling everybody, dream on native 4K. Man, we're far from native anything, okay? Let alone 4K. And then I hear people talk about native 8K. Like, please stop. Let's not dream too far, okay? Even with a PC, it's a struggle with a SLI, a 4090 to achieve a native 8K, okay? Barely you can keep up 30 FPS. Because let's just for a moment think about let's just look at the difference between the native 4K, and before we continue the interview, before native 4K, the difference between native 4K and 8K. Native 4K, 8.3 pixels, that needs to be rendered natively at 60 FPS, frames per second, 60 hertz. That's 8.3 million pixels, okay? 8K, now we're jumping from 8.3 to 33 million. So on 8K, you have 33 million pixels that needs to be rendered natively. So I think we're stuck with 4K upscaling. But you know what? The upscaling has really come a long way. If you look at Indiana Jones, if you look at PS5 Pro with a 1900p, 1800p, that's a pretty good scaling resolution to give you that 60 FPS at 4K. So upscaling has really come a long way, I have to admit. But anyway, let's continue. So basically, what Mark Cerny was telling Oliver was, hey, we just released this PS5 Pro, okay? So let's just wait a little bit, all right? It hasn't, what, it's been a month since we released this thing. Let's wait. Let's give the developers throughout the next year to see what developers will do using this technology. And then in the beginning of 2026, then we can finally make the announcement for PlayStation 6. I have a feeling they will make an announcement in 2026 for PlayStation 6. That's just my, perspective. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I'm getting from Mark Cerny and the way he's giving that smile. Like, so don't expect any major changes on the spectral scaling super resolution pisser technology. So basically that was the answer, but let's continue.
Resolution is a very good place to start.
Right. And then in terms of that PSSR, in terms of the way that it's implemented on a per game basis, that's something that developers will presumably have to go and patch in new versions of PSSR, right? Because you wouldn't necessarily want new versions of PSSR kind of in the mix there without a title update, or is that something you're thinking about?
Well, there are a lot of interesting possibilities there. And I mean, honestly, I don't know at this time. It's wonderful to think that the game could say it's okay to update, or a user could make a decision to update. Just how all of those pieces fit together, I don't know.
From a developer perspective, I think we can look at our games differently a lot of the time. And I know some developers would say, I don't want the system to touch what I have confirmed looks good to me and players. And other developers would say, oh, your system's going to go and make my game look better for people without me having to do anything great. So there's options there.
Yeah. I think with PSSR, a lot of people are pretty interested in a certain kind of problem, which is that you have a pretty tremendous improvement in image quality. And I think we see this across, different kinds of PC upscalers as well when we're talking about that. But the internal resolution of that imagery might not be changing that much relative to what you saw before. So are you guys kind of trying to figure out how to message that to people and tell people, like, this is a profoundly improved image despite the fact that the internal resolution is comparable? And I know that we're part of this problem for sure, so that's a tough thing to message, but have you thought about that?
You're not part of the problem. And I've heard you talk. I spend too much time on DF, but I've heard you talk about how you really shouldn't be looking at internal rendering resolution and drawing too much in the way of conclusions from that. You really need to be looking at image quality. And I was trying to communicate exactly the same message today, is we need to change the way we're talking about resolution. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about it at all. The difficulty is, if you don't have a number, right, it gets very hard to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think we tried to get away from it at some point by...
You know what? I totally agree with Mark Cerny. You know what? I happen to agree with Mark Cerny now more and more. The more I watch his seminar, the more I watch his explanation, the more I listen to him, the more I watch his older videos and how he integrated, PS4 to PS4 Pro and now PS5 to PS5 Pro. You learn a lot about this man and how he is advancing this technology of upscaling and resolution by keeping the higher textures and better performance with ray tracing. And I think what he's essentially saying, and I agree here, is that, and I can confirm on this because I've been doing this channel for now, 10 years? 10 years. It's been 10 years. I mean, look at me, man. 10 years. It's always been about the resolution. And well, of course, it's where my channel really kind of took off, It was the resolution. I mean, even my channel says Mr. 4K, so it is a resolution. It's always a number. But I also have realized, as I was doing the televisions, as I was reviewing televisions and looking at the different consoles, like Project Scorpio, Xbox One X, and Xbox One S from Xbox One original, and then PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 4 Pro, I have come to realization that I happen to agree with what Mark Cerny just said. I think we're way too much focused on the resolution. I'm not saying that's not important. Like, don't get me wrong. Sure, having a higher, pixels, having more pixels, higher resolution, the picture will look cleaner. The picture will look sharper. Of course, that's just a fact. But we also need to focus on the graphics. I think that's what he's trying to emphasize: graphics and performance. At the end of the day, you want to have a great quality graphics with a great performance. And if you can have a great quality graphics with a great performance, then you can enjoy the visuals of that game that developers want to bring it to you, right? Like I was playing Spider-Man earlier, and I know it's a upscaling, but my God, the graphics and the ray tracing and the performance, it really showcase on that game just how great it looks. So what he's simply saying is we have figured out the way how to tap into resolution through AI and scaling techniques. It used to be checkerboarding, now it's upscaling. So it has advanced since 2016, 2017. Remember checkerboarding? So we have certainly advanced into a much better upscaling, and this upscaling that we're seeing today, it's far, far better than what we had in 2017, 2018, right? And even all the way up to 2019, 2020, right? So I think that's essentially what Mark Cerny is saying is we have figured out the way how to bring this upscaling technology, and we shouldn't be focused too much on, is it 1800p, 1900p? Well, let's be honest, you really can't tell a difference. And I said this like numerous of times. You can tell a difference. If I was to put two monitors, let's say 55-inch two monitors, and they're all playing the same game, one it's native 4K, the other one it's 1800p, let's say 1900p upscaled, you wouldn't be able to tell a difference from which one it's native 4K, from which one is 1800 or 1900p upscale, because your eyes really can't tell that difference, And unless you're using, like I said, zoom in, this is what Digital Foundry does. Of course, that's what their business is, to show you the differences. But I think what essentially Mark Cerny is saying is the scaling technology has become so good that we're able to upscale these games to 1800p, 1900p, near native 4K, where you honestly can't tell a difference between native 4K or 1900p or 1800p if the upscaling is really good, especially when you're using the resolution pixel sharpening, right, where you can sharpen that resolution and upscale it really well with a really good GPU, CPU. So what basically Mark Cerny is saying, we need to focus more on the performance and graphics. And I think that's very important. Performance and graphics. Just ask all of us who try to play Dragon's Dogma 2. Right? We all want performance with great graphics. And we shouldn't be so focused on resolution so much. I think that's essentially what he's trying to say.
Just maybe stop telling the numbers and start using like some kind of model that would tell people what the approximate image quality is. Yeah. But it's a big challenge because like you're trying to communicate different things, and resolution is an important part of that at the moment at least, but that final image is ultimately what really matters to people, and I think that's what we're seeing with PSSR for sure. One last question about PSSR here, and this relates specifically to your work, Mike, is that one thing we saw with PSSR in Ratchet & Clank in particular is that it appeared to improve the stability and resolve of RT reflections. Is that something that you've seen across other titles that you're working on? Obviously, you have 4 titles on PS5. Yeah. Is that something that you would expect would carry over to other games, possibly with RT reflections, where that PSSR process, or whatever inputs are being fed into that PSSR process, are producing a better result with PSSR?
So ray trace reflections are an interesting challenge because they are a composite of multiple images in the frame, right? That pixel that has the reflection, it's partly the window that is reflecting the thing, or the mirror. It's partly the thing that's being reflecting in the picture. And so with the information you feed into an algorithm like PSSR, you're limited in how much you can describe about that one pixel. So an example would be if you're passing the depth buffer in to tell the PSSR how far things are from the camera, it can't tell it how far the window is and how far the reflecting thing is and how far the thing behind the window, right? There's layers of this. And so that's what makes that a unique challenge is as you turn the camera, you have some velocity information about how the window is changing, but maybe not information about how the reflecting thing in the mirror is changing.
Right.
And one thing is that.
And I'll be honest, and I think I've expressed myself many times about ray tracing. You know, when ray tracing officially started with NVIDIA, with the RTX GPUs, 2070, 2080, I had my very first 2070, 2080 EVGA graphics cards. And I remember it was a Battlefield. It was a Battlefield game, and I know how badly they were just pushing the whole ray tracing thing. I will say what I said previously about the ray tracing. Ray tracing, it's something that it's really up to the developers and how developers are using it. It will look good on some games, but it's not going to look good on every game. It depends on how the game is set up. Like, what type of game are we talking? If you're playing Call of Duty, you're not going to notice that. If you're playing Battlefield, you're not going to notice that much because you're too busy, you know, trying to compete. If you're playing a game like The Witcher, where it's an adventure game with a story-driven, character-driven, yeah, you will notice it. If you're talking about another story-driven game like Cyberpunk, you will notice that. If we're talking about the Mafia Definitive Edition, you'll notice that on Mafia Definitive Edition, you'll notice that ray tracing. So it depends on how it's being used. Same thing with Spider-Man, right? On how it's being used. So it all really reflects on how developers use this technology. Just because you turn on the RT ray tracing doesn't mean automatically that magic's gonna happen. Everything's gonna look glossy and reflecting, right? It's really up to the developers, and that's what this guy Mike Fitzgerald is talking about. Now, having a good AI spectral scaling resolution, which is PSSR, I call it PSSR. Sure. Having those 32 working groups can definitely help render that ray tracing better, be more stable, be more consistent. But again, this all goes back to the developers, how developers use PlayStation 5 Pro. And I think that's essentially what Mark Cerny was saying in the beginning. We want to see, basically what he's saying is, when Oliver asked about, are you going to do any advancements on the PSSR? And he says, like, hold your horses, kind of like, wait, we just released this console. Let's wait a little bit. Let's give developers time. And I think that's the important thing. Let's give developers time next year, 2025. And let's see what developers will do with video games that they're making, how they utilize the PSSR technology, how they're utilizing 32 work groups that the GPU, CPU has on that, PlayStation 5 Pro. Let developers choose how they utilize all of that. We now giving you these tools, and we're giving you this extra boost on our GPU, CPU, right? Which is the RDNA 2. What do they call it? RDNA 2X. The big three, right? So we're giving you these big three. So you developers, next year, by the end of next year, going into 2026, you see what you can do with this extra technology that we're giving you on the PlayStation 5 Pro, and you see what you can do. And I think developers will definitely utilize this. I think that developers will have fun with this, especially next year. You'll see a lot of games take advantage of this, not just on the PlayStation 5 games, but the PlayStation VR 2 games. You will see developers try to utilize this technology once they understand it better, once they have better understanding on how to use it. Then you'll see more and more games being improved. Another big one, to me, it's obviously Grand Theft Auto 6, how Rockstar is going to utilize all of this that PS5 Pro has, including 32 working groups, RDNA, 2X, and 16.7 teraflops with PSSR, spectral resolution, scaling resolution, how they're going to implement to make their game look better, perform better with the ray tracing and full ray tracing and global illumination, right? So that's yet to be seen. And I think that's the exciting part about the PS5 Pro, is to see what developers will do next year with this console. Because I have a feeling in 2026 we'll have an announcement for PlayStation 6. I think there will have to be an announcement for PlayStation 6 coming in 2026, because we'll be then going into 2027. And I don't think, I think PS5 Pro, look, I want to say this, and we'll continue with the interview. What PS5 Pro is, it's an upgrade. It's not a necessity. It's not like, oh my God, you have to have it. It's an upgrade for those of us who want that little extra icing on a cake. You know what I mean? It's an option. It's not necessary. It's not like you gotta have it. If you have a PS5 Slim or PS5 Digital, you're okay. You're still going to experience Spider-Man the same way, The Last of Us and all these other games, Ghost of Tsushima, right? You will still experience, the greatness that PlayStation has. So PS5 Pro, it's like an option for those of us who don't mind paying a little extra to have a little extra of that, icing on the cake, if you will. So I think we'll have PS6 announcement on next year, and a PS5 Pro will have a great year for 2025, and also going into 2026. But once PlayStation 6 comes out, whenever that is, holidays 2026, I think PS5 Pro, just like PS4 Pro, will fade away, going into 2027. So you got a couple of years to play around with this console. If you have it, you'll have good 2 years to enjoy it and enjoy all of the accolades that developers will give you. Now, this is my perspective. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, okay? I don't have a gypsy girlfriend, squeezing goat testicles to tell me what the future will be. I don't know. But this is my perspective, and that's why you're watching this video, because you want to hear what this bozo has to say. All right, so let's continue.
That can be really hard to encapsulate in an analytical algorithm like TAA, where you're sort of limited in how you express that kind of thing. So I think that's one of the areas we were hoping to see improvement is PSSR in a trained model that has more capability to perhaps recognize that type of situation or adapt to it.
I'd like to move on now from PSSR onto the hardware, and maybe we can discuss some of the things we saw in the presentation indeed there as well. When designing the PS5, one thing I was struck by in the presentation is there was not as much of a kind of organizing thought, I thought, around the PS5 Pro, like kind of the why rather than the how a little bit. With PS4 Pro, it was very much like we're going to target 4K displays. Here it seems much more like you're achieving an enormous improvement in the power level of that console, but did you have a certain kind of game experience in mind to deliver to players when you were designing this console, or was it like, we're going to achieve big power improvements and then the developers are going to show players what that looks like?
It's a mid-generation release, so really the target is better graphics, and it felt like the big three were the right things to go after. Larger GPU, more advanced ray tracing, and the ML. So I mean, not that complex.
Yeah, it's not that complex, but I think what we've seen so far, one really compelling thing, I think, is getting those fidelity modes, those 30 FPS modes, basically at 60 FPS with comparable image quality, very comparable looking visuals overall. So that is for sure something that is sticking out in this early batch as well as ray tracing enhancements like we're seeing in the Insomniac titles.
I mean, also personally speaking, it's been just great digging into the ML aspects of this and gaining some knowledge there. Because we know that's the future we're heading into. And so what an opportunity to gain all of that knowledge with the Pro, rather than waiting for the start of a true generation and having to get everything right with no experience whatsoever.
Yeah. One interesting thing about the PS5 Pro, it's obviously being upgraded in a ton of respects. You've got improved memory, improved storage, obviously a massively improved GPU, but the CPU is staying roughly the same as we had before. Now, there is a clock bump that developers can tap into there, but it is, broadly speaking, a very comparable CPU there. Why wasn't the CPU upgraded, and why was not such a big focus there?
I mean, it's really just a question of where you put your resources. And I wasn't seeing, and I didn't think I would see, that many titles that couldn't run at 60. That's kind of my litmus test. Yeah. I'm not asking, do all the games run at 120 at this point in time. I'm asking, do all the games run at 60? And you can count the AAA exceptions on one hand, I think, for games that didn't eventually run at 60. And so it seemed if we threw pretty much all of our resources into the graphics, that would be the best approach.
Right.
And say as a developer, the day Mark comes and says, hey, we want to give you guys a presentation about what we're thinking about for the next hardware, like that's a fun meeting for everyone, and we were very happy with where the focus was here, GPU wise.
Yeah, with regards to the machine learning hardware in the console, do you essentially see that as kind of a solution for a problem that we're seeing across the industry, which is that you don't get good cost scaling on new silicon nodes anymore? You aren't getting that massive driving down in the cost per transistor that's enabled us historically to increase the power of consoles. Is machine learning ultimately, is that going to be the answer to that question, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everybody watches that video that we're talking about, because that's precisely what I was saying, is rasterized rendering, and I don't have a better word for it, but the strategies that we had up through PS4 Pro or the like, that is, I wouldn't say it's reached a limit, but mostly it's about making the GPU bigger or memory faster. And so, as we look to the future, the improvements will be ray tracing. Ray tracing, I think we're going to see a lot happening there. And then everything we can get done with ML.
One last question here on the PS5 Pro hardware itself, the way that it's been configured. We seem to know roughly that you're targeting similar clocks in the GPU as in the base PS5 model. And you might have some issues possibly with running up against power constraints in this model in possibly a more significant way because the model itself has a much larger GPU. So is it the case that maybe developers will have to deal with a little bit more of a variable clock speed in that GPU?
That's a great question. It's pretty much identical. So PlayStation 5 capped at 2.23. PlayStation 5 Pro caps at 2.35, which I did not talk about in the video today because it's just such a distraction. I don't want anybody doing flop math based on 2.35 because at the end of the day, we go in and when we do the set design, we tune the set design so that the games are running at about 2.17. Right, we don't want it to get too bulky. We don't want to have the fan have to be too large or the like. So, I mean, that 2.35 is really a red herring. I don't think too many games will get up to that too often.
Okay. I just wanted to ask some more, I guess, general questions and maybe a little bit more philosophical questions possibly from this point onwards, because I think we've seen from your presentation that you have a really clear vision for what the PlayStation 5 Pro looks like. And obviously you've delivered a compelling piece of hardware there. But I do wonder a little bit about something in the presentation, which is that you kind of positioned the PS4 and the PS5, and the PS4 Pro and the PS5 Pro as existing along separate tracks. One down the left-hand track as generational leaps,
Yes.
and then the mid-gen refreshes on the right, the enhanced consoles. Now, we're in an era where developers are shipping cross-gen more than they ever have. But does that chart reflect that you still believe fundamentally in generational leaps, going from one generation to the next generation, big changes in software, big changes in what people can deliver on that hardware?
So we're not making PCs. We're making a few very specific things, right? How many types of PCs are there? I mean, you can't even answer that question because you can combine the components in any way you want to.
All right, so there's so much to unpack here, and I'm sorry because I have to listen to what Mark Cerny's replies and what Oliver is asking and what Mark is replying. And again, I happen to agree. I tell you what, man, I can't tell you how much I actually happen to agree with Mark. The more I start, reading about him, learning about him, and reading his, perspectives on the graphics and resolution, etc., etc. And especially the ML, for those of you, I'm sure you who do know, you know what it is, but for those of you who don't know, ML stands for machine learning. And machine learning, again, we're talking about the AI, right? Artificial intelligence, machine learning. And I think the AI has really advanced in this territory, especially when you look at, NVIDIA and Jensen, and of course Jensen, which is the CEO of NVIDIA. He talks about the AI all the time, and he says that with this AI technology, machine learning technology, we're going to be able to do so many things better, more efficient, less power usage, etc., etc. So this will make the components a little bit less more expensive for the companies, so they can, maybe make these consoles a little bit cheaper. I know it goes back to saying, well, with the PS5 Pro, it's $700. Look, I don't agree with the price. I think PS5 Pro should have been at $600. That's just my opinion. It should have been at $599. But again, we can have a debate about this maybe on a live stream one of these days. Whenever I decide to do a live stream, we can have this debate. Okay. But basically, what Mark Cerny is saying to Oliver is, everybody's comparing consoles to a PC, and I find it very what's the word I'm trying to use? Very unfair to be, comparing a personal computer to a console. Personal computer is your preference computer. You can build your computer the way you want to build it. You can put whatever you want to put in there. There's no limits. It's your own personal computer. You're going to build your PC the way you want to build your PC. And it's your unique preferenced PC. Right? My PC build was different than yours, and your PC build is different than hers, etc., etc. That's what Marx is saying. So when people start, comparing PCs to a console, even though the consoles have come a long way, that's due to this new technology that he's referring to, the ML, machine learning, artificial intelligence, upscaling, etc., etc. And what basically Mark Cerny is saying to Oliver is, we're building a console. And one of the main reasons why I personally prefer a console, and I have a PC. I have many PCs. I have gaming laptops. You know me. If you know me, you know that I have, PCs. I'm no stranger to a PC, all right? Even this is being recorded from a PC using the OBS. So I'm no stranger to a PC, all right? Even that 4K video that I rendered was from my AverMedia capture card, which has to be installed on my PC to give you that 4K usually Blu-ray quality on that Spider-Man that you saw recently. If you haven't seen it, I suggest go watch that Spider-Man video. So consoles are designed for one purpose: to play video games and watch some entertainment. And the main focus of a console, it's always going to be video games. And I think that's the important part that people need to remember when they're trying to compare PCs to a console. Okay. Even though I'll be the first one to admit and say that consoles have really come close to a PC. What premium PC can do. Consoles have come a long way. What witnessed with the Xbox Series X playing Indiana Jones, Stalker 2, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, what I have seen with the PlayStation 5, right? It shows me that the consoles have come a long way. And they are kind of in par with PC. But again, PC has no limits, has no limitations. Meaning that you can do a triple monitors, quadruple monitors, you can go with some ridiculous resolution, you can go 8K, 12K, you can do whatever. Depending what your budget is, right? So one of the unique things about the console, I think that's exactly what Mark Cerny will acknowledge here, is the ability to be more convenient. And that's why I always say to people, to me, consoles has always been my preference. Not that I have anything against PC. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm using my PC, my gaming laptop, to play Marvel Rivals. I've been playing Marvel Rivals and Delta Force on my gaming Asus ROG G16 Strix gaming laptop. So Marvel Rivals and Delta Force. So I have nothing against PCs. So people out there who are watching this and they want to criticize me that I might have something against PCs, I don't. Those of you who know me, you know that I have nothing against PCs. But I do have a preference. My preference is consoles because consoles are more convenient. The game, it's already calibrated. It's already optimized. You don't have to worry about anything. While on a PC, you have to tweak everything. Tweak this, tweak that to see if it works. Developers already know what PS5 Pro can do. They already know what the Xbox Series X can do, and they can easily calibrate and optimize their game for that console. And I think that's essentially the convenience of having a console versus a PC for gaming. But anyway, let's continue.
Yeah.
So the Pro consoles are very tightly targeted. I mean, you're seeing around GPU. Mm-hmm. But when a new generation starts, then it gets opened up to what are we doing with the CPU? What are we doing with the amount of memory? What are we doing with haptics? It's a whole new experience that the developers can go out. And I think it's really helpful. Even if we drop words like revolution from the conversation, I think it's really helpful if the developers have that thing to consider and can ask the question, okay, this game, yes, it'll ship on one, it'll also ship on the next, but how can it be a different creature for each of those? Mm-hmm. Not gameplay-wise, but in terms of the visual experience.
Right.
Good influence.
Yeah, so for you, really that distinction, and the distinction you kind of want to maintain, is that on that enhanced side, you're talking about bigger GPUs, better graphics, that sort of thing. But on the generational side, that's when you're really trying to talk about fundamental paradigms, like how fast is my CPU? What kind of haptics do we have there?
Yes.
Okay, that's the kind of fundamental difference there. We are talking about an era where rasterized performance improvements are maybe not as important as they used to be back in the past when they were extremely important. And the use of upscaling technologies is changing the way that we perceive a lot of those metrics.
Well, it's not all going to be rainbows and path tracing. So.
Yeah, well, exactly. So,
Yes.
So along those lines, actually, the PS5 Pro still has 67% more WGPs or CUs than the outgoing PS5. So this is not like, even though this is the future possibly of graphics rendering, a massive focus on AI and ray tracing. It's not completely here today, is it? Because you have to make some of these changes.
Sure. I mean, what was that like? Because you had a moderate boost for the raw graphics performance, and then you had a much better boost for the ray tracing. How did you tweak the engine
Well,
for that?
the nice part was that those things stacked together in a really constructive way. So we were able to use the faster ray tracing performance to get some time to spend to drive the upscaler further. And this came just the more sizable GPU came back to cut frame times down. So I think they stacked well for a game that was designed for the base PS5 and already had little bits of each of those pieces.
Well, I liked it because very simplistically looking at it, it's faster, and so you've just sped up your rendering, and now you have 5 milliseconds to spend on whatever. And so why not spend them on improving your ray tracing or adding a new widget or whatever? Like, if you're making an engine, nobody is ever coming to you and saying you now have 5 milliseconds to do whatever you want to do. That's just gravy, right? That doesn't happen.
It's pretty
You're
rare.
desperately trying to get to 60 frames per second.
Yeah, that was one thing in the presentation that I thought was quite compelling, which is you show like your 11 millisecond or your 16 millisecond workload on PS5 becomes an 11 millisecond workload on PS5 Pro. Then all of a sudden you've got this big chunk of frame time left over looking very scrumptious. And all of a sudden you can devote your resources to tackling ray tracing, to doing machine learning upscaling, doing a lot more on the hardware.
All right, so we're going to skip here to the end of this. There's a couple more things I want to say. Well, actually, Mark Cerny pretty much has acknowledged everything that I have already acknowledged in terms of, the existence of PS5 Pro. The existence, it's simply for those of us who want that little extra, it's kind of like buying a car, right? There's a base model car of that car model, and then there's another more elite version of that same model. So would you like to have that little extra elite stuff in there, right, with all these extra gadgets, or would you like to have just a basic version? It's an upgrade. I think somebody left a comment on my previous video regarding the Mark Cerny seminar, technical seminar, educational video. It really was an educational video. And I suggest that you guys go watch it. Someone says, PlayStation 5 Pro, it's an option. It's not a necessary to have PS5 Pro. And I agree on that comment 100%. And I think that's the way we need to look at PS5 Pro. For those of you who are not familiar with all this technical jargon, right, and you're not familiar with what machine learning is, ML, and how this is being implemented with the scaling resolution, with the AI, etc., etc. To you, this will not make much of a difference, because if you're just somebody who wants to play video games and you're not like tech savvy, like I am, Digital Foundry is, my friend Jose is, others are, who have special interest in technical aspect of upscaling, resolution, advanced ray tracing, global illumination, etc., etc. All of this jazz. It's really for us, for those of us who are, I guess I have to use this word, suckers, who are suckers for, can I use the word suckers? Yeah, suckers. It's a nice word. It's not terrible word. I don't think so. I mean, it's not a profanity. It's just the suckers. We are suckers for, although I don't think it falls into a profanity, does it? No, it doesn't. Suckers for, like, the latest and the greatest, the best of the best. And I know my friend Jose, he likes to have latest and the greatest. So do I, but then again, you have to look at your budget and you see what you can stretch to purchase and to buy. But what I'm trying to say is this. PS5 Pro, just like PS4 Pro, it's an option upgrade. It's not a necessity. I just want to clarify this for people out there who purchased PS5 Slim this holiday season instead of a PS5 Pro. Keep in mind, it's an upgrade to have a PS5 Pro. It's not a necessity. As you can see from the left and right here, you will be hard pressed to see the difference. The only way you can see that difference if you zoom in like Digital Foundry, it's zooming in. But if you're sitting away 7 feet away from the TV, which I assume you are, you, my friend, will not be able to tell that difference. It'll be nearly impossible for you to tell that difference. So I agree on that. That PS5 Pro, it's an option. It's not a necessity. Playing games on PlayStation 5 will look just as good as they are on the PS5 Pro. It's not going to be a drastic difference. And I think that's the only thing that I wish that Mark Cerny would have. But I know he can't do that because, he wants to sell this console. He can't just simply flat out tell you, hey, there's no drastic difference. There's some differences, but there are no drastic differences. Then Sony would have fired him. He would have lost his job because he needs to, sell the console. And he needs to make his case why you should maybe think about purchasing PS5 Pro. So his case is, big three, right? 32 work groups, this ML, machine learning, spectral scaling, artificial intelligence, resolution, which is powered by artificial intelligence. That's what the machine learning really stands for. It's the AI, ML AI. So that's his job to sell you the console, because he's in business of making money, and he works for the corporation that wants to make money out of PS5 Pro. But looking at it from a consumer point of view, and from someone like me who is independent, obviously I'm not sponsored by Sony, I'm not sponsored by anybody, I'm independent. Looking at it from my perspective, that's essentially what PS5 Pro really is. It's an option, just like PS4 Pro was an option. If you want it, it's there. Same thing with the Xbox Series X. It's an option. You don't have to have it, but if you want to have the little extra teraflops, the little extra juice, a little extra, CUDA cores, that extra, memory, faster memory, then sure, you want to upgrade to the Series X. So it's not a necessity. It's an upgrade for those of us who want the upgrade, And I think that's the way that honestly we need to look at PlayStation 5 Pro. And I think eventually a lot of you will probably come to the same conclusion after watching my video. If you made it this far, watching it on a premiere, that's essentially what PS5 Pro it's all about. It's an upgrade. It's an option. It's not a necessity. So let's go all the way up here to the end to see what Mark Cerny has to say regarding the final closing statement on this interview about the PS5 Pro and what the vision is for PS5 Pro in a couple of years.
It's like a challenge.
Okay, great. And one final question here. What is your kind of vision for what developers will be achieving on PS5 Pro ultimately in the future? Like, what would you say in a couple years, you're looking at PS5 Pro software, what would you be happy with ultimately?
Yeah, I'm happy with the launch lineup, to be honest. We view it very simply, is we're just making tools for the developers, and how the developers use those tools, that's up to them. And so, we've seen a couple different ways of doing it, I think, right now. Part of the fun will be, go out 3 or 5 years, there will be a lot more different ways to use them that we haven't had anticipated. Just look forward to it.
Okay, great. Well, I think that was a really interesting conversation with Mark and Mike here. And thank you guys for joining me here.
So it's exactly what I've been saying, the whole idea of PS5 Pro, it's to give developers an extra tools to make their games run better, to make their games more polished, to make their games look more richer in how they want their games to look, to be more rich, to make their games more rich and more enhanced and with more options. And that's a great thing. Listen, I'm all about the options. I love the fact that the PS5 Pro exists. Do I agree with the price? Of course not. But again, it's an option. It's not something you have to have. That's why it's a special interest option. For those of you who are enthusiasts about graphics and resolution, right? Then this is for you, obviously. But for those of you who don't really care about, numbers and, this is running at 1800p, 1900p, 60 FPS, and ray tracing looks more cleaner here, more redefined. If you don't care about these small little things, then for you, you are more than good with PS5 Slim or the original PS5. The original PS4 digital. You can get it for like during the Christmas. Probably can get it for like $350. I wouldn't be surprised if you I mean, $350 for a PS5 digital. That's a pretty good deal, man. Merry Christmas, So it's you know what? I just want to finish this video because I know it's been almost an hour. Everything that I watched here, everything that I have learned about this man, Mark Cerny, and I've been watching some of his previous stuff back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, prior to PS5 release. It's interesting to see how he focuses on utilizing this new technology of checkerboarding and upscaling, scaling, and now ML, which is the machine learning, artificial intelligence, to bring us these experiences, right? And I agree with him on a lot of things that he says. I do. One of the things that I agree with him is that we focus too much on the resolution, even though that's important, and of course. But I think our focus is always on the numbers, like he talked about, the CPU is running a little bit, just a slightly little bit faster, just because, like teraflops is a good example. Just because you have that extra 4 teraflops doesn't mean it's going to be some drastic, change in how your game will look. So his focus was mainly on the GPU, to make a bigger, better, faster GPU and faster memory. Because let's be honest, the one thing that the graphics they need faster memory to render textures, right? And all the assets from Unreal Engine 5 or Decima Engine, right? To render all of those assets and to render all of the textures and ray tracing. So his focus was mainly not so much on the CPU, but on the GPU. So I agree pretty much with everything that he said here, yes, resolution, it's important, and especially from a guy like me, Mr. 4K upscaler, I'm all about the resolution. Yes, but good news is technology of upscaling through AI and through machine learning, which is the ML, that's what the ML stands for, machine learning, has really expanded to the new realm now of possibilities. And I'm excited to see what we have in store next couple of years, especially with the PS5 Pro and the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 6, and possibly maybe the announcement of PlayStation 6 in the late 2026. I think in summer of 2026, we might see an announcement for PlayStation 6 possibly coming out holidays 2026. We'll see. But I think in those 2 years from now till 2020, late 2026, I think we'll be able to enjoy a lot of great PS5 Pro enhanced games coming in the next couple of years. Well, there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you are watching this on a Premiere, which I'm having this on a Premiere right now, please feel free to chat with each other, and you can have your opinions on this on the chat room, and I would like to see what you guys think, because I can read those transcripts from the chat. If you guys are on the Premiere here, if you're watching this on the Premiere, I can go through the transcript of the chat and the stuff that you guys were talking, giving you feedback, because I like to hear your feedback. You know, you gotta let me know what you guys think. You know, leave the comment down below. What I mean, you gotta let me know, because if you don't let me know what you think, then I have a feeling that you guys have no interest in this. But I think majority of you do have an interest in this and do care, and I think I would appreciate if you guys would leave a comment. Let me know down below what you think. You know, now you don't have to leave a comment. It's an optional, of course. When I say you gotta leave a comment, I'm basically, you know, hoping that you will leave a comment, because I want to hear your feedback. You heard what I have to say. You know, if you made it this far, you know my perspective on where I stand on this and how I feel about the PS5 Pro. But I would like to hear what you guys have to say. You know, what do you think? Did you buy a PS5 Pro? Are you happy with what you have? All of these comments are very appreciative, and also leaving the comments really helps me out. You know, break the ice, the barriers of the artificial intelligence algorithm on YouTube. So I would appreciate if you guys would leave a comment. You don't have to, but if you would, it would be greatly appreciated. You know, you don't have to do anything. You know, it's a free country. You know, it's up to you. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. If you don't, that's okay. Not holding anything against you, but I would appreciate if you would leave a comment. Anyway, so there you have it. It's been 1 hour and 2 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think. And if I don't see you whenever I make my next video, I want to wish every single one of you happy holidays. Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Hopefully 2025 will be a more promising, positive, blessed, peaceful year of new beginnings and new opportunities, new adventures. Hopefully it's a better year than what we had previously. To be honest with you, past 4 years has really been it's been tough for a lot of people, with the surviving pandemic and all the stuff that's going on, you know, in the world. It's been pretty hard on a lot of people. So let's hope and pray that 2025 will bring us more peaceful prosperity here at home and across the globe. And on that note, like I said, thank you. Wish you all happy holidays. And like I said, I would really appreciate if you would leave a comment. You don't have to, but if you would, I would appreciate it. Thank you guys. Love you all. Be good.